So, welcome everyone to Career Lounge Live. My name is Elizabeth. I almost forgot my name for a second. It's like, I apologize. My name is Elizabeth, and I am your host this afternoon for Career Lounge Live. And we just want to welcome you all to this space. We do this every week on Tuesday afternoons at the same time, and we are so glad that you are here with us today. So Career Lounge Live is here to help you be a greater you. This lounge is designed to help middle and high school students prepare for life after high school. Today's topic is don't leave your future to chance. This is such an incredible topic because we're going to be talking about how to help direct what your future is going to look like and not just leaving it to, well, this might happen or that might happen, but how you can intentionally direct the path that you're going to take into your future. So I'm so excited about today's session. Make sure you are inviting your friends into the Facebook group. If you're already a member, tag them into this live. If you're catching the replay, please put in hashtag replay in the comment section so that we know that you are watching. We also want you to go ahead and, put in a greeting in the chat box. Let us know that you're here. Say hi, hello, and we'll definitely do the same back. While you are all coming into the room, we want to take this time out to do a special thanks to the Career Lounge Live sponsor, EXL. They are a leading data analytics and digital operations and solution company. To learn more about EXL, just visit www.exlservice.com. Thanks to their sponsorship, we're able to bring this lounge to you at no cost. That's so awesome. Thank you so much, EXL. Again, as you're joining, we just want to remind you to go ahead and invite your friends to the Facebook group. If you're already a member, tag them into this live so that they can also hear about how not to leave their future to chance. If you're catching the replay, please go ahead and put hashtag replay in the comment section, and we will definitely say hello back. Now, a little bit more about us. We are Love Our Youth, a 501c3 nonprofit organization providing programs for youth throughout Central Florida. Our mission is to encourage you to embrace their self-worth and value life's lessons in order to maximize their potential. Today, we understand that decisions can be made by applying a process, and that learning this process is critical to making all important decisions in life, including those about career choices. Today, we're going to learn all about how you can not leave your future to chance. But before we kick off today's session, I would love for you to learn more about our facilitators. We are going to start with facilitator Amy. Please come on, tell us a little bit about yourself and the career field that you're in.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a talent acquisition manager at EXL. That's just a fancy word for recruiter. Basically, what I do is I locate employees that want to come and work for EXL, evaluate their qualifications, and send them on to the hiring managers. I became a recruiter about 20 years ago. I got a degree in organizational development and leadership and applied that degree to the recruiting field, and just really enjoy working with people and helping them find the right fit for what they're looking for with their career goals.
Thank you, Amy, so much for that. Thank you. I like that job. I've met a lot of people in that field recently, and I'm like, okay, this sounds interesting. So definitely looking forward to learning a little bit more about what you do and how that can be affected by our students learning to not leave their future to chance. Mr. Fernando, we're going to turn it over to you. We'd love for you to come on and introduce yourself and tell us about your career path.
Hi, yes. Well, thank you very much. My name is Fernando. I'm very excited to be here. My career path is in the healthcare field. I've been in healthcare for the past 20 years. And my role at EXL is to familiarize providers, hospitals, and clinicians with our services. and to help those organizations with their operations and to make their systems run more efficiently and everything that a big business needs to really be successful. So my job is to bring that out to them and make sure that they have the ability to do that. And like I said, I've been in healthcare for 20 years. I started as a therapist and just got into the business management aspects of healthcare. Just find healthcare to be an extremely fascinating industry. What we're going to talk about today in healthcare would change tomorrow. So those dynamics and those challenges are what keep me very interested in healthcare. So thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
You are so welcome. Yes, healthcare is definitely a big field, and there's so much to do in the healthcare field. But thank you so much for coming on today and being here to share with us your background and your insight into today's topic. We're also going to pass it on to Nafi, who was here with us before. So we're excited to have you back. We'd love for you to come on and tell us a little bit about your career.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for having us back. Well, having me back. We'd love to be here, and we're happy to support this great organization with all of your initiatives. So I'll introduce myself as the VP of Global Compliance here for healthcare. Again, I'm in the healthcare industry like Fernando. Compliance just basically means that I have to make sure that everybody does the right thing at the right time and in accordance with contract terms, right? Big picture regulations and things like that. And how I got here was because since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a lawyer. And it's gonna kind of impact a bit of our conversation here today, because I didn't go down that road, and I still wish I had. So I went with the next best thing, which, following my interests, I went into being a paralegal, got certified. So I've been working with lawyers since I was about 18 years old. And after that, I jumped into healthcare, and since 1991, I've been working in healthcare in one capacity or another, mostly related to the legal environment and the legal departments of various health plans, et cetera. So that's sort of how I ended up in compliance. And so I've been with EXL for 21 years, technically. I was acquired through various previous acquisitions, but always with the focus on like legal and compliance activities for the organization. So that's my job. I have to keep Fernando in line, make sure he's behaving. So that's what we do. We make sure all contracts are, complied to, and that we're following the letter of the law, essentially.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So we have 3 wonderful speakers here today to help all of you learn a little bit more about how not to leave your future to chance. And you will probably hear stories about having certain goals for your future and making a pivot, sometimes making a change, and sometimes going into a different space than what you thought. But I want you all to take this information in and really think about how what we're sharing with you today can really help you not leave your future to chance. We want you to be able to have, be intentional about your future and have that control in a way where you can say, okay, this is the way that I want to go, and then set things up to go that way. So we are going to go ahead and jump into today's presentation, and so that we can learn all about not leaving your future to chance. So here we are. Let's get started. So as we said, today's topic, don't leave your future to chance. This is, it may sound simple, but this is so important that you have a plan for what your future will look like. Even if that plan doesn't go according to plan, it's still good to plan. It helps give you direction, and it really does reduce you leaving your future to chance. So today's lesson objectives, what we're looking for you to get out of today's session, is learning the importance of finishing high school. This is important. So we'll talk about that, reviewing important actions to prepare for life after high school, and understanding what dual enrollment is. And dual enrollment, I'm learning, is a big thing right now. And so through our discussion today, we will definitely discuss some of that as well. So to get us started, we're going to hand it over to Miss Amy, who's going to talk to us about why we need to finish high school. Miss Amy?
So high school seems like it takes forever to finish. And you may feel like you want to drop out and just get out and get into the world and get to working. But there's many reasons why you don't want to do that. One is it significantly affects your earnings when you get out into the workforce. You can earn as much as 40% less in a job if you quit high school and don't get your high school diploma. And also it decreases your chance of 33% of being able to be employed. My own son is an example of this. He thought at the age of 18, the day he turned 18, that he didn't need to go to school anymore. He could just drop out and he would be fine. He actually packed his bags and moved out of the house the day he turned 18. He still works in a fast food restaurant to this day. He has refused to go back and get his GED, and he is barely making $13 an hour. Whereas his sister and his brother, who both graduated high school, make $17 to $20 an hour. So you do need a high school degree to be able to go to college. It's something that you can take pride in. You could be a role model to your younger brothers and sisters, to other people in your community, especially if you're from an impoverished community. It's something that you can talk to other people in your community about. It actually helps to lift people up. And helps to bring others along with you on your path. So finishing high school doesn't just affect you. It affects your future. It affects your future family. And it also affects your community as well. So finishing high school is not just about checking a box or taking something off a to-do list. It's something that you want to have pride in, and something that you want to make a commitment to being able to finish, not just for you, but for your family as well.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, I was sitting here shaking, nodding my head to all of that because it is so important to understand what finishing high school can really do for you. And I love how you ended it off saying it doesn't just affect you. It definitely affects your family. It affects your friends. It affects your community. And so you have to take that into account when you're thinking about, do I need to finish high school, and is college really for me? So I'm going to ask any of our other facilitators if you guys have anything you would like to add to finishing high school.
I know Fernando's going to talk about this also in his presentation. I will just add that whether it may seem important today or not, if you don't step through that door, then you're limiting your options, period, right? So there's nothing that can go wrong with you finishing, going through that door, and then you can stop and reevaluate. And we'll talk more about college later, but my point would be that why limit your options? Why just shut the door on something? You never want to do that. And so that would be my main focus and goal, is just get this done, right? Trust me, it gets better.
And I would just agree with all those comments as well. It's just a matter of getting it done. And like you said, on the next slide, we'll have some more bullet points, but agree with my colleagues 100% that you have to keep that door open for other doors to open. And if that door's closed, it's very difficult to reopen. And that's just, getting that door open is just harder than finishing the high school, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Fernando, do you remember? I'm sorry, I was going to say, do you remember the day back in the day? Like a high school, certificate, or was like, wow, like, and I'm talking years and years and years ago, guys. But it was like, wow, you got there, right? Yeah, And now it's kind of like, honestly, it's like that's like the foundation. That's like honestly, like the bottom of your journey. Yeah. And nowadays the requirements and the expectations of employers have just duplicated and just gone off the charts. So definitely a very, very important milestone.
I couldn't agree more, Nathan.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for that input. We're going to move on and talk about our next topic. How can you make sure that you graduate? And we're going to hand this over to Mr. Fernando to talk to you about points on how to make sure you graduate high school.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And again, thank you, everybody, for joining. An honor and a privilege to be here to share our experiences. And when I was asked to do this, the very first thing that immediately popped into my mind is what I call my bike story. And it is the story that describes the why. You hear a lot about do this, but I always believe in starting with why and why do something. And this story really does symbolize why to stay in high school. And I understand where you're at. I grew at the time when I was ending my sophomore year, going into my junior year. My family home life was pretty bad. My dad was extremely active alcoholic, and would spend nights, if not weeks out, and I wouldn't see him. But the area, the environment was pretty bad at that time. And going into my junior year, I went to a different school because I actually got kicked out of my previous school. My sophomore year, I got all Fs. They said, Fernando, we're not going to accept you back. So I went to another school. I stayed there for about 2 weeks, and then we literally just dropped out. I mean, I forced my mom to go to the school to sign the papers to drop out. And she said, Fernando, if you drop out, you have to work full time. That's just the bottom line. And so there was a gentleman in the neighborhood that everybody knew as a carpenter, and he hired me. And I worked for him for $4.25 an hour. And that was for the entire year and a half almost, where I dropped out of high school. And I saved throughout that time. I did save enough money to buy a really nice 10-speed blue $600 bicycle. And I was so proud of that bicycle. It was just gorgeous. And then one day, I don't know, it was like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I don't even know why I was there. I was in front of a store, and I went into the store and I came back out, and my bicycle was gone. And I was really upset. And I said to myself, who would steal a bicycle? What kind of a bum would steal a bicycle? Oh, a bum like me, a bum who drops out of high school, an uneducated bum. That's who steals bicycles. That night, I immediately went home, told my mom, my dad was home. I said, I need to go back into high school. I want to drop back in. I don't know if they'll take me at Curly, but I'm going to call. So I called Archbishop McCarthy and I said, Father McGrath, I'd like to drop back in. And he said, Fernando, we would love you. We would absolutely love you to come back to school. So before, when I dropped out, my first 2 years in high school, I did none of these bullet points that you're looking at. I had no idea really what classes I should take. I had no idea about what my transcripts were. I didn't even know my school counselor's name. I didn't even know we had a school counselor. And I was just focusing on work. No, work. So I didn't do any of those. I went back into high school my junior year. I graduated with straight A's. I graduated with high honors. I was accepted to a multitude of colleges. And I did the junior and senior year, I did every one of these. I knew what classes I had to take. I knew who my counselor was. I knew what I needed to do to get into college. I knew my transcripts. I knew everything. It really is amazing. It's a tale of two cities. And I remember when I went back into school, a very good friend of mine who knew me from before and now going back in said, Fernando, you don't have a reputation whatsoever to keep. Don't feel you have a reputation to keep. Just go in there and do your thing. And that really gave me the freedom to just buckle down, look at my studies, pay attention to my schoolwork, and just focus on everything I needed to graduate and then to go into college. And then when I graduated, I went into college, and then I got my college degree, and then I got my career in healthcare. And I've been very fortunate and very blessed to be surrounded by a really good group of people in my career, to be able to support my family, and looking for a very healthy and comfortable retirement, just because of that bicycle, just because I walked out of that store one day and my bike was gone. The people that I was working with at the time when I had dropped out of high school were grown men, living, in very, poor conditions, making, almost less than minimum wage. And they were fully grown adults doing this menial work. And so I would have been in that situation. I honestly would have been really struggling career-wise to do that. So I really do attribute that. That is my why. So make sure whatever you do, you just stay focused on these bullet points. Make sure you focus on knowing everything you need to about your coursework. Don't worry about work if you can. I know that's an easy thing to say, but focus on school. You're going to have a lot of time to work. I had to work. Some kids have to work. We understand that, but do your best. It really is worth it. You do not want to have a blue bike story. And so that's my story, Elizabeth. I think if you wanted to touch on any of the other bullet points or anything, but I think that's what I wanted to communicate today.
I think that was an absolutely amazing story.
Thank
I'm I'm listening to the story. I'm like, all of that before high school was even over.
you. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Like that is a lot. There is one thing that I did want to kind of pull out of your story. You mentioned the people that you were around at that time and what they were doing, and I think it's really important to kind of take a moment to look at that aspect of know who's around you when you are in school and you're going through these spaces and following these bullet points. Your friends become your support when you're in school. The people around you become your support, and if they are not focused in these spaces, then there's a high likelihood that you won't be focused in these spaces either. And so it really has to be something that you want. When Mr. Fernando went back to school, they accepted him and I believe that they understood that this was the moment that he really wanted it. And they accepted that and they took him back in. So you have to want it for yourself. You have to want it more than anyone else, for yourself. And be mindful of those who are around you. I just remember from my time in high school, I used to always say to people, like, you can't get me across the stage. And it wasn't meant to be mean, but it was just like, I need you to understand that I have to do this to get myself to where I want to be. And while, yes, I would love to hang out or I'd love to do all of these other things, when push comes to shove, you cannot walk across the graduation stage for me and collect that diploma. I have to do it, which means that I have to sit and do the work. I have to be focused and intentional about what I'm doing when I'm in school. And again, it wasn't meant to be mean to anybody, but just it was me reminding myself that I had to put the work in if I wanted to get anything out of it. So that's my take on that. Does anyone else have anything they would like to share before we move on? We're gonna go. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Fernando, for that.
Thank you.
We're gonna move into a space and we're talking about making a launching pad for the future, right? So we discussed why you should stay in high school and all of those points. We've also discussed what you should be doing while you're there, key things to be thinking about. So now we're talking about how do you launch that, right? How do you take that information and launch it into your future? And we're going to turn it over to Ms. Nafay to talk to us about how we launch that into our future.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I'm going to start by picking up where you left off a little bit just a second ago, right? Which is about and I'll tie it back into my other comment where I said, again, graduating from high school is your launching pad. It's that step that's going to give you that opening of those doors and making those decisions. So I will say that for me, for example, I was not aware, or maybe chose not to be aware or educate myself better, and make the commitment to understand my options at the time. So I was a daughter, my mom was a single mom, I was an only child. quite frankly, we never talked about my options or, focus on it. So these conversations that we're having here today with you were really never a part of dialogue at my house. I'm not, it's not a complaint or a criticism. It just wasn't part of that foundation and the thread of our lives. We just didn't. So I never really looked at it as I'm going to do this and I'm going to go to college, right? It was like, yeah, okay, maybe. Which, because I failed to prepare, because I failed to really dig into considering my options, I then I went to college for like a semester. And then I got what I call the 10-year plan. And so that 10-year plan took me obviously 10 years to get back and then finish my college education, which had I not done, it was truly a pivot in my entire life. So I was working for an organization and I did not have a college degree yet. And I was doing what I do now, but we had another bigger company come in and buy us out. And at that time, their requirements at the larger organization, the new organization, were different. And so if I ever wanted to, number one, keep the job I had at the title and the pay that I had to have a high school diploma, a college graduation. So luckily, right before this happened, like the year before, I decided to jump in and get this done. And so I must have graduated like a month before that acquisition closed. And I was very lucky because that allowed me to continue in my path and at the level that I already had worked very hard to get to. And it opened up opportunities for me in this new organization, which led me, quite frankly, to where I am today and having opened our own business after that. And it just was a world of opportunities that I had based on that. So had I not had that, things could have been very different. And so after all this hard time and work, I wasn't prepared to, lose everything that I had worked for. But that being said, so I happen to have known in my life that this is the kind of thing I like to do, right? I like contracts. I like reading. I like arguing with people about terms and conditions. And I like that. That doesn't mean that everybody knows what they want, like today, right? So here's where we're talking about, prepare launching pad, get ready, consider your options. How do you do that? So my son didn't want to go to college when he graduated from high school, for example, but he loves animals. So, I made him get a job. I said, first of all, you got to get a job, right? You got to see how the real world is out there. He worked for about a year, then came back and he's like, okay, I really want to do something. I just don't know what. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And so he looked into several things, looked into the veterinary opportunity, not a veterinarian, but he wanted, went into the vet tech world. And now he's a veterinary technician, which is sort of considered a nurse for animals in the state of Florida. He's licensed and all that good stuff, has a job he loves, but he went down his interests, right? What do you like to do? What interests you? What's your thing? Well, animals. All right, let's go down that road. There are so many, honestly, you guys have like the world at your fingertips. Like there are so many opportunities online to take assessments, figure out what you like. Watch videos, go down these roads of, I think I may like this. Go jump into there, learn as much as you can about it. What do you need to do? What are the key skills you need? Are you good at them? Can you learn them? So just follow that sort of, I would say, world of information that the internet has provided us over the years. Another thing I would highly recommend, right? Volunteer in the areas. My son did that actually for a little bit too. He volunteered at a shelter. So kind of got to see, like, do I really, do I like this? Do I like this world as much as I think I do just because I own a dog? I don't know. So he did, and he loved it. He volunteered there, got sort of the gist of and the job and what it would look like, and then he decided to jump in. Again, getting a summer job, right? I did that. I worked at a law firm for the summer. And I answered phones. It was a receptionist job. I was 18 years old. And I thought, well, I want to kind of see what these people look, what do they do on a day-to-day basis? So I did that for a summer or two. And I saved the money for college that I didn't go to right away. But I did get to at least gain the experience of what do I like. And that's where I kind of followed that road. Obviously, talk to your family, talk to your friends. figure out, where can I, and you'll hear more about like dual enrollment from Amy in a little bit, which again builds that launching pad, right? Creates opportunities. And I will say that there's not one path to fit all, right? It doesn't look, I did it years later, Fernando, almost didn't do it. And then, so there's really not one path, and don't get discouraged, right? Do not get discouraged. You don't get a good grade or you're doing poorly in one class, it doesn't mean the end of the world, right? Don't let that bring you down and to discourage you to the point that you just kind of give up. I mean, and I'll say this, and I hope that I won't get in trouble for it, but you also have to have fun, right? I get it. High school is supposed to be fun. College is supposed to be fun. So I am not eliminating fun at all. But just remember, right, you have a world of opportunity coming up to have fun as well. So everything has to be, to me, a balance, and you don't want to miss any opportunities that you've got coming up, but you also want to prepare to put yourself in a really good place for college, for your future, to get that great job that you're going to, hopefully obtain, and go after. So getting ready for all of that, I think, is such a key component of hopefully what a really bright future that you all have. Any questions? Any comments?
I like that we talked about, being prepared for it, not being discouraged. Excuse me. And I know that's a big one, because it's so easy to get discouraged when you're taking this path, and you're the one that's trying to stay on the straight and narrow, and not that you don't have fun, but you can't always attend all the extra parties, or you can't always attend some of the functions because you have deadlines to meet for school projects or things of that nature. I just remember when I was in college, it was like I went nowhere. My weekends were mine, and they were engrossed in my textbooks and getting my work done. And people would want to hang out, and it was a hard thing to do, but it was like, I can't, because I have to get this done. I made this commitment to myself that this is what I wanted to do. And so I have to stay focused and get that done. Now, once it was all over, then, but I think the key to that is planning, and being able to plan for when you have time that you will be immersed with your friends versus time that you're going to give to your schoolwork. And that's how you can kind of work on the balance of things, is to try to, and again, the plans don't always work, but the idea that you even had a plan allows you to stay, it allows you to be intentional, about your time and what you're doing, because time is going to be very critical when you are working in this space. So thank you. Does anyone else have any comments they would like to add?
Yeah, Elizabeth, I'd like to chime in on
Sure.
Nafi's comments. I think what she really hit on the interests and the hobbies and having fun. It's in my mind, when I went back into high school, I noticed an enthusiasm that I didn't have before. And I wasn't able to complete anything without the enthusiasm. So I think part of this is to try your best at instilling a sense of enthusiasm with your school and your work and your classes. Great expression is nothing great has ever been achieved without enthusiasm. I still to this day live by that. And the important point of the number one on your interests is hone in on those interests and those hobbies and hold steadfast to those. Even in the face of conflict, even in the face of, disagreement, if you're really interested in those, and that's a really interesting thing for you to do, and you enjoy that hobby, 99.9% chance any school that you're going to look into has those classes, has those clubs, has that career, anything at all. I just think of Gran Turismo. I just saw that, and he just said, "This is what I want to do." Now, I believe he finished high school he was just going into college. But that kind of steadfastness is hard. It takes a lot to be able to say, this is what I like, this is what I'm interested in, and use that to guide as a way for future decision making. I just want to add to that, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you. And I got out of that, the word discipline came to mind. You have to have, to do all of this, there has to be a level of discipline that you are bringing into your space, to say, so that when you need to say no, that you can say no,
Right.
not today or something like that. So that's something else to take away when you're looking at, creating this launch pad for your future. Also think about what's the discipline level that you want to have in that space, because that's really going to help you understand how you're going to get through this launch into your future. So that's what I got from that. So thank you. That just made me think of like that level of discipline and being able to say yes or no and direct which way you want to go. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. We're going to take that and go into considering dual enrollment. So this is another thing, something else that you can think about as you go through your high school path, to see if this fits. As you're going through high school, we'd love for you to use this time to kind of explore a little bit to see what really does work for you. So that can help you direct your path outside of high school. So we're going to ask Miss Amy if she could come back and talk to us a little bit about this dual enrollment for high school students.
Thank you, Elizabeth. People think dual enrollment is something new, but surprisingly enough, it's been around since late 70s, early 80s. Used to be just career development programs like cosmetology, auto shop, things like that. My sister actually graduated in 1991. She already had all of the classes that she needed to be able to go and take her state board exams to be a cosmetologist. Now, though, they have introduced the ability to be able to go and get college courses in addition to your high school diploma at the same time. We actually have a young lady that at our church that just graduated high school and graduated with an associate's degree at the same time and was able to get out of school, go take her EMT exam and become a licensed certified EMT as soon as she graduated high school. So you have multiple options available to you. You can get a head start on your bachelor's degree. You can stop at your associate's degree and become a nurse when you get out of high school. My cousin in Florida actually did that. She actually got out of high school and was a registered nurse at the same time and was able to go work at a cardiac care unit. You've got different career paths that you could take: HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, mechanics for auto care. There's all different plumbing, all different courses that you can take. It just really depends on your high school and what they offer. You do usually have to be a sophomore going into your junior year. Sometimes you can be a freshman going into junior, just depending on the program in your high school and what they offer. They're flexible courses. They don't clash with your core courses that are required from your high school. And your college type courses do require a certain GPA, and the career type ones have usually a lower requirement on the GPA. And there is some testing and exams that are required. So just check with your school counselors on what's required for your school and the particular courses that you're wanting to get into. But I highly encourage you to check into this if this is something that you're interested in. A lot of times these dual enrollment programs don't require any tuition for these college classes that you can take while you're in school, in high school too. So that's a huge savings to you and your family on college tuition. If you can get a jump start of a year or two on college classes that you don't have to pay any tuition for, that's a huge monetary savings and a huge time savings for you. So just imagine if you can get a 1 or 2 year jump start over other people in your college or in your field on your college education to get out into the workforce, how much extra earning power you're going to have and how much of a jump start you're going to have on your career, getting into that field of study that you love, that you discovered using those bullet points that Nafi just talked about a few minutes ago, finding your interests. So I highly encourage dual enrollment. I wish it would have been an option that I would have had available to me for the interest areas that I had when I was in high school. But only they only had the career enrollment options available to me when I was in high school. We didn't have the college enrollment options available, unfortunately. So I do encourage that you guys look into this program. It's been implemented in my area when my children were finishing up their high school years, and they did look into it. They did ultimately decide not to take it. I wish they would have, because it would have been a tremendous advantage for them to have taken advantage of that program for them. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for inviting us to be here today and to help out with this program.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dual enrollment is a big decision to make, you know, as you go through your high school career. And, you know, I want to encourage anyone that is thinking about dual enrollment to really do your research and look into it. Make sure that you are speaking to your counselors, as well as speaking to the proper representatives at the college that you would be doing a dual enrollment for, to make sure that it really works for you. And it's more than just taking the classes, but does it fit your schedule? Is there transportation included? Different things that may help you make the decision as to whether or not this is a good course of action for you or not. You know, finding out what schools take your credits from dual enrollment, ensuring that, you know, that they have classes that you would want to take. So just a little extra on the dual enrollment, not extra, but a little more research for the students as you're going through the space. And I'm talking about it like this because my son is going through it right now. So this is real time for me about, you know, learning what dual enrollment is doing in the current day, and just ensuring that, you know, if it's an option that you choose, it definitely has its advantages for yourself as a student. But you, like I said, you want to make sure those advantages fit for what it is that you're trying to do overall. And so that kind of takes us back to, you know, being intentional about your career and not your career, your schooling, and not leaving it to chance. You know, you can't get into dual enrollment by chance. You have to actively apply for it, and make sure that you're following the guidelines to be accepted into dual enrollment program. So that is great. Does anyone else have any feedback or questions for dual enrollment?
I don't have feedback, but I'm wondering if, so aren't there possibly some AP courses in high school that give you credit for college that may not necessarily be considered dual enrollment, but I don't know the answer, but I mean, that's something that maybe some of the students may want to look into as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would. Oh, sorry.
No,
ahead.
that's okay, Samantha, go ahead.
Oh, I was definitely gonna say that I took AP classes. I preferred that just because I also worked in high school. So to do dual enrollment for me personally would have involved me leaving school early to go to the college to do school that way. And because I had a job, it just didn't work for me in that way. So what I opted out to do was AP classes instead. And when you take the AP classes, you are able to test at the end of the semester. And when you get a good score, you can apply that towards your college. You just have to make sure your college would accept those scores that you have tested out. But yeah, those are definitely an option. And I think they're more feasible, but dual enrollment definitely is also a great choice too. Just depends on your schedule. I was also an athlete, so it was just a lot going on.
Oh, awesome. Awesome, Samantha. Thank you. I had that in the back of my brain somewhere. I'm like, I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a great option. I mean, my daughter Madison did a bunch of AP classes and went into college with I think like 24, maybe 30 credits or something, and it gives her a boost, you know, a head start, and she can, you know, it wasn't, you know, she didn't have to do any kind of leave the building or anything. She just took it right there in her class. So yeah, that's a great point. And I would imagine most, if not all, high schools probably offer AP classes. I mean, I don't know, but if your class or your school does, that is a great option to talk to your counselors about for sure.
Yeah. Definitely, that's what I was going to say. You know, this is definitely that time to go and have that conversation with your counselor to see, you know, based on what you're already doing or what your schedule already looks like, to see if this is something that's viable for you to move forward. You know, when I was in high school, I didn't do dual enrollment or anything, but I definitely was intentional about making sure I got all my courses done early. And that was another way that I tackled high school, with being able to graduate early, you know, 6 months earlier than what my time frame was allotted. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of be intentional about high school. You know, and again, if you're looking to go to college off dual enrollment, one of the things I also would suggest is, if you know what college you want to go to, kind of reach out to them and see, you know, to ensure that they take the credits from the dual enrollment from colleges. Because I think it's different if it's a public school versus a private school or something like that. So just do, again, this is where your research comes into play, and use your resources. Your students, counselors are resources, your parents are resources, you know, other people that are in the program. If you know any other students that are already in the program, use them as a resource to gather as much information as possible so that you can make an informed decision about if dual enrollment is good for you. And so there's a lot around that space. We also do have a question from our audience. The question is, what are some ways to overcome feeling discouraged?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
It
I mean,
is.
I would
think,
recommend finding a peer group that has the same goals in mind as you do, and you guys can be a support system for each other. Because if you have the same goals in mind, then you guys can support each other and encourage each other to keep going and keep moving toward that target goal of graduation.
that's a great question, and thank you for that, being honest with, and asking that question. And I would also add that, talk about it. Find somebody that you can trust in the school system, your friend, just like Amy said, but share why you're discouraged. Write it down if you have to, and but just make sure you communicate it. Make sure that you reach out, and that you don't keep it bottled. Don't keep it bottled up.
Yeah, that would be my advice as well. I mean, if you can talk to your parents, school counselor, your friends, and just express your concern, your frustration, and you'd be surprised. I think just expressing it would help you. And then of course you may be surprised at how much support you can get once people know, you know, what your situation is.
Definitely. Also, we had the comment of investing in mentorship, which can really come in handy, and choosing a mentor, someone that can assist you in that space, could be also very helpful. And your mentor could be just maybe another student. You know, I think a lot of people have this idea that mentors need to be a certain age, a stature, etc. But depending on what you need, a mentor can just be a friend, you know, someone who can see things a little bit different or from a different perspective than you, someone who's optimistic or positive, someone who, you know, can show you how to, someone who's not going to judge you, someone who's going to take the time to listen to you, you know, so that mentor and or friend can be really helpful in that space. But just make sure that it's a person that you trust to give you good information, and do it out of love or concern or something like that, not something malicious, you know. You want to be able to have someone there that really has your best interests at heart when you're having this discussion, because it is a vulnerable discussion to say, you know, hey, I'm discouraged, especially if you are like what people people perceive to be like a straight A student, going the distance, that's a lot of pressure that is put on you and placed on you in high school. And people have different colleges they want you to go to, and you can start to lose yourself in that space. And that can lead to being discouraged about what it is you're doing because it doesn't quite feel right to you. So I definitely think, having that mentorship, that open space to be able to talk out what it is you're feeling, even sometimes just to write it down and read it out loud. Sometimes what we're feeling when we read it out loud doesn't sound so crazy, but it does sound crazy and discouraging when we just keep it in our heads. So definitely, I would say mentorship, finding someone that you can trust to speak to, talking it out, writing it down, whatever means it is to kind of be able to face it, look at it face to face and say, you know what? I'm not going to let you defeat me. And this is what my goal is. This is what my commitment is. And I'm going to stay true to that. So that's some of the things I would encourage as well. So I hope that's helpful.
And also, Elizabeth, if I may add, know that you're not alone. Know that whatever you're going through, whatever question you have, whatever discouragement you're currently facing, there's other folks that are facing the same thing, and that they have the same issues, the same problems that you're going through. So you're not alone. It's just always remember that when somebody explained that to me, that really helped to know that I wasn't the only one that was going through this, and that there's other folks that have similar issues too. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much for that feedback. Don't see that we have any other questions at this time. So we're going to kind of move on into the next space that we're in. So with each session that we do, we always want to leave off the session with encouragement for you all. We hope that there's something that we said today on the live that helped you kind of understand how not to leave your future to chance, and why it's important not to leave the future to chance, and to really be intentional about some of the spaces that you're in, be intentional about building out that plan, talking to your counselors, and getting things in order so that you can not leave your future to chance. I want to thank our speakers for being on today and sharing with us these amazing stories and insight into the topic that we discussed today. And before we wrap up, I'd just like to offer up, if there's any final words that each one of you would like to leave our students with, we would be more than happy to hear it.
Just go get them. Go get them.
Go get them. Go get them. Have fun. Go get them. You can do it.
I love it. I love it. Go have fun and go get them. I know we talked about a lot of serious topics today, but I love the idea of have fun with it. You really can have fun with it. And again, that's being able to balance out your time, plan things out, and make time for the things that you do need. I know a lot of it may sound like keep your head in the books and work and work and work, and you don't have time for playing, you don't have time for parties. But the reality is you do have to make time for other people. And partly the reason is that you don't want to isolate yourself. So be sure that you are, and I'll stop sharing real quickly, be sure that you are adding in that time, for those people in your life that are important to you, whether it is your friends. And even if it's like, hey guys, every Friday from 4:30 to 6:30, I'm available, and then after that and before that, I'm not available. It still creates time and space. And it also creates boundaries where your friends will start to support you in what you're doing. And they'll say, oh, well, we know that you have this going on and we support that. So we're not going to what's that, peer pressure you into doing something outside of your time frame, etc. And it's also important that you speak to those people in your life and let them know what's going on, and not just secluding yourself and not talking to people. So communication is key. Creating a plan is going to be key, and not leaving your future to chance. Speaking with the correct people, your counselors, your parents, mentors, etc., to help you launch that future is going to be critical in your high school career. So with that said, we want to say thank you for coming out to Career Live Lounge. We, as I said earlier, we do this every Tuesday. Our next Career Live Lounge session will be Tuesday, November, I think it's 7th. Yes, Tuesday, November 7th. We'll be live on Facebook again. So we ask that you join us for our next Career Live Lounge. You can sign up to get information about our Career Live Lounge at bit.ly/EXL Career. We also want to do a special thanks to Career Live Lounge sponsor, EXL. They are a leading data analytics and digital operations and solution company. To learn more about them, please visit www.exlservice.com. Thanks to their sponsorship, we are able to bring this lounge to you at no cost, and that is every week until December. So please join us on our next, Career Lounge live session on November 7th, where we will be back with more great information for how to focus on your careers after school. So with that, we want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week for Career Live Lounge. Again, if you're catching the replay, please write #replay so that we know. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you and discuss that. So for now, we're going to say thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. And it's just me.